Such a pleasure to be here. Thank you to Next, and thank you for all of you who braved the afternoon after lunch to stay awake during my presentation. So we're going to go in a completely different direction. I obviously come from a company called Dolby, which needs no introduction, a company that's been around for 60 years creating immersive viewer experiences for audiences around the world, on the audio side and now on the video side for the last few years. And I came in through Dolby through an acquisition. I was one of the founding team, part of the founding team at a company called Milicast. And we were trying to find a new way to bring real-time streaming after the death of Flash to try to bring more interactivity into the way we consume live sports and live music and live events. So with that in mind, if we can pull the slides up. So one of the really interesting things is, though technology has evolved, traditional TV, linear TV, really hasn't changed in 60 years. Since the original Olympics were broadcast over satellite all across the world, and the first true live event, especially for sports, what have we done with all this technology that we've been evolving in the industry to really change the way we consume content? Most live sports now is still a very linear experience, and more importantly, the only way we're making money on it is the same way we made money on it 60 years ago, is an ad experience. Nobody has really found a way to really tap into the revenue streams that are available through the new technology that's available and is already out there. And this is becoming, I'm going to talk about a few trends in my presentation, talk about really cool use cases and cool technology, but not just focus on technology, focus on how we can use that technology to make money, and how it aligns with not just what we're here for, which is iGaming and sports betting, but how can we use that technology to create revenue streams based on data, based on value creation for content owners themselves. So a product that just came out this year, I was at CES earlier this year, and this needs no introduction, is the Apple Vision Pro. VR is nothing new. I'm older than I look, and I remember the days of Second Life in the 1990s, and really nobody has improved VR since that. Facebook has done this big transition to Meta, and they're really trying to push VR experiences as our primary viewing experience. But I really do think the Apple Vision Pro is the beginning of devices that really deliver on the promise of what interactivity really can do to enhance an experience. And this is a Formula One example that I saw on YouTube, and I just thought, wow, this is great. Here we can pull in linear streams, we can interact with the drivers that we want. Formula One is the darling, right, of live sports right now, after Liberty Media bought the rights to them and really started convince Netflix to do Drive to Survive. They created this enormous new audience. It's a live sport that really hasn't done a lot in the way of live betting and creating interactivity. But if we can create an experience here based on data and based on interactivity and statistics that creates interaction and engagement with this content, the sky's the limit on the amount of revenue we can create from these streams. And funnily enough, this is another example from BT Sport from a couple of years ago. Liberty Media, I think the news just came out today that they're eyeing a $4 billion buyout of MotoGP. So everything that they've done for Formula One, they may translate that same model into MotoGP and create all these new viewers, these new engagement stories. Who's going to make revenue on this, and how are they going to make revenue? Creating a VR experience where we can interact with the content. Think about the betting layer you could add in this. I think the really key part to this is that it doesn't need to be a strategy just tied to a VR device. Personally, I think that's where Meta's gone wrong. You need to be able to tap into a direct-to-consumer model that can also be linear. It can be web. It can be direct app. And in non-regulated markets, be somewhere where you can gamify content, but then obviously when regulation happens, like it has in the US and Canada over the last few years, how can you quickly transition from this kind of fantasy gamification like DraftKings and FanDuel had over the last couple of decades and translate that into revenue opportunities. So I'm going to focus a little bit on some of this technology and specifically how we make money on it. So what's Dolby known for? Well, Dolby is known for creating immersive, interactive social experiences through its technology. And the Dolby.io group, which is a part of what my startup became a part of with Dolby Milicast, is trying to create technology that makes this easy for people to create these direct-to-consumer products. Whether it's live sports, live events, live concerts, we're trying to add all the Dolby value and Dolby goodness into these live streaming use cases. So what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is to really create immersion for fans. And this is one of the early products we developed. And we had built Milicast actually in the remote production space to allow, what ESPN has been doing live Remi or remote workflows where you don't have to send 1,000 people to go create the Super Bowl. Many people can be remote. And we created this live multi-viewer that we could pull in these linear clean feeds and broadcasting and allow those viewers to switch it. Well, because our product was like a SaaS product, that we got a lot of inbound interest, and people started building live fan engagement multi-viewers to create these kind of Formula One experiences like we just saw. And we see this for a live concert, where this is all native to a web browser or in an app, and now the user can start controlling their own linear experience. Well, if we take this a step further, what's the app experience of the future? I saw this stat that just came out a few months ago that was showing of the top 100 events in the United States last year, 90 of them were NFL games. So, I think that's no news to anyone. It's definitely the biggest brand in American sports, and maybe even in global sports. But how can we enhance the experience? Even with Amazon and Thursday Night Football, it's been a very linear broadcast, and apart from there being some Manning cast type use cases, or a lot of what the Kelsey brothers have done with creating ancillary content around it, we really haven't created a better experience to enhance how we view this content and how we can make revenue off this with betting opportunities as well. So that's a lot of what we're doing at Dolby. I'm not going to make this a sales pitch. I want to talk more about the actual trends that I'm seeing through our customers and through other partners in the industry. And this is a big one, is how can we use AR? How can we do in-stadium, in-venue? If you go to a Formula One track now with Miami, Austin, and Las Vegas, think of all the people in those regulatory markets where you could be creating value in the venue. You have like a Jumbotron in your hand, and you can be interacting with that content through a direct-to-consumer app. For operators, for the content owners themselves, like Formula One, and for the investment companies that are obviously involved in both. So this is a partner that we're working with called Play Anywhere. And Play Anywhere spun out of Warner Media. And what they did is something that I think is the most interesting thing I've seen that's revolutionizing the way that you can license content. They're going directly to the content owners, La Liga, the Spanish Football Association being one of them, we're seeing this trend in the industry where value is not just in the hand of a broadcaster or in the hand of a telco that has owned a lot of these traditional rights. With this direct-to-consumer model, what you're seeing now is the content owners are realizing, hey, we're going to sell you some of these rights, but we're going to retain the right to do a product ourselves. And I think a lot of these content owners like Formula One are going to start doing their own direct-to-consumer product that rivals a lot of these broadcast contracts. And the news that just came out a couple of weeks ago with ESPN, Fox, and Warner, all, in my opinion, unionizing to try to protect their rights in the broadcast space. They're realizing, that this is, they see the writing on the wall, right? That broadcasters are not going to be in the middle of the value journey. It's really going up to the content owner, the league, or even the team itself, someone like the Kansas City Chiefs, someone like what the Yankees did many, many years ago with the Yes Network. They had a big enough audience, they realized they could go direct to consumer. In those days with cable, but now with direct-to-consumer with apps. This is a trend that more and more teams can access because the investment to get in this is much lower, and you can get a lot of that value and retain that value. So what Play Anywhere is doing is they're working with these different content owners, like La Liga, that's, I believe, an investor in Play Anywhere, and they're telling La Liga, hey, we're going to create a clearinghouse for this new form of rights called interactive rights. So it doesn't violate your broadcast contract. It doesn't violate a contract you've sold somewhere else. We're saying anything under 5 seconds, real time, that you interact with, we're going to create a pool for these interactive rights. We're going to do a partnership with Fanatics or some other kind of branding. If you order through the app itself and you have Uber Eats or whoever happens to be DoorDash in your particular market, the content owner themselves to the app now creates this new revenue stream that all stays in that ecosystem. And Play Anywhere is enabling that through this kind of clearinghouse model. Also, what's really interesting is that this interactivity you're building into the app, this is web native, this is app native, this is smart TV native, can really go to any device. And the most interesting thing here is the gamification side of it. How can we create an audience around, how can you retain that audience, and then how can you quickly pivot to creating a revenue stream around betting and gambling, which is, I think, where a lot of the untapped revenue is in a lot of live sports. So all these new technologies are giving you this instant access to new revenue opportunities. Here's an example of data-driven insights that can actually drive the experience. It's not a linear ad where I'm, as a middle-aged man, being sold a female, makeup product, that's not contextual to who I am. I have my data. I have the data that can be reacting in the content that I'm watching. I don't want to talk too much about AI and ML, but it's coming and it's coming quick, and how we can analyze live video to add data to experiences that we can then make revenue on, tied with data driven from the user itself, this can now create, oh, hey, this guy just scored. Do you want to buy his jersey? This creates the ecosystem for the content owner or the direct-to-consumer app in whatever market to create this. And here's an example of gamification that doesn't actually tie it to a betting opportunity, but does create the data stream inside of the UI and the app experience. Whether this is a second screen or a first screen experience, this app can be used and very easily deployed among both. So obviously, with what's happening what's trending right now, you see the Live Golf and their partnership now with PGA, very contentious, but they're much more open to new revenue streams that are going against a lot of these legacy broadcast contracts and broadcast linear streams that you've seen now over the last, pretty much in the history of live TV. So, golfers, famous for betting, right? How can we create a communal app where we can start betting with our foursome group? I know there's regulation and laws, and I don't come from that market about social betting, but this is extremely interesting to create a data ecosystem that people can very quickly create apps and go to market with those apps to take advantage of these revenue opportunities. So whether it's e-commerce, whether it's free-to-play games, whether it's betting or interactive ads, I think the ad ecosystem, it's one it frustrates me a lot. I've been in live streaming for over 20 years, been involved in building a lot of the biggest live streaming platforms that are out there. And truthfully, the linear streaming experience is broken. It's really, really broken in the live streaming market. And nobody's creating a good way to create contextual ads, because it's usually a Coca-Cola or a McDonald's who's outbidding someone else for the eyeballs, when in fact, I haven't eaten at a McDonald's in 10 years. Why not show me an ad that's more specific who I am that I actually react to based on the content or based on my user habits? So all these data-driven insights, it really brings up a very interesting question, which we really never thought about when it comes to live sports or live content, is who actually owns the screen? Is it the league? Is it the broadcaster? Is it the rights holder? Is it the distributor? Is it the old telcos? I don't think the industry has really thought about this, and I think the content owners very quickly are realizing, you know what, I think we own the screen. And the market is changing, especially with the new digital providers that are out there, the Amazons of the world, the Facebooks of the world, the Apples of the world, who have global $100 million subscriber bases that they can access and start negotiating for these rights. Even though Liberty Media worked with Netflix, Netflix is launching a live platform. It's happening, and it's already launching out. Who do you think is going to be trying to compete for Formula One rights in the next few years? They built all this value around Drive to Survive, and they're not cashing in on almost any of it. This is going to really create a very interesting ecosystem for how we make money on the revenue that or how we make money on the content that's out there. So this disruption that Play Anywhere kind of fueling, and there's a few other companies that are doing this, it's disrupting the model of the rights model. And whether it's an operator, I also think, being a part of Dolby, that's a big name in the broadcast industry, there was a lot of rumblings within Dolby about us getting involved in the gaming space. And what I said after my startup was acquired, I said, look, you either get on the train or you get off it, and this train is going. And the reality is that watching an NFL game in 5 years' time, most people are probably going to be, a lot of people are going to be watching that primary viewing experience inside of a betting app. It's already happening with ESPN, right? With their partnership with Penn Gaming and launching the ESPN Bet app at their ESPN Edge conference back in October. A lot of people will watch an event primarily in that app and not through another provider or through a broadcaster. That's a disruption that is happening. And I think what's really interesting too is, I think it was on the first panel today, is how do we go after this new demographic of audiences? How do we go after the people that have grown up with Roblox and have grown up with, what's the other one that people watch? Whatever, I'm too old to remember any of this. But they've grown up with these VR ecosystems and this interactive ecosystems that we have yet to really build in the broadcast market, and we have yet to build in the live sports space. Whoever builds those apps and goes after that demographic are going to create communities that can really create a lot of revenue opportunities that we've yet to see. So I don't want to just focus on Play Anywhere, but I do think what's interesting here is that they're centralizing and simplifying these interactive rights. So what we're doing with them at Dolby and through the Milicast platform, we're enabling them to create a real-time video feed that gets the fastest possible stream that isn't 30-second or 60-second delayed, as it has been in the live streaming industry for many, many, many years now, is we're trying to create the fastest possible live stream so that users can be synchronized, be watching video in the same time. Also, we can be creating better data, quicker data, potentially through AI and ML and quicker data models to create new products that the betting industry is yet to develop. The World Cup final last year, I always use this example. I'm a big football fan, soccer fan, and that final was the best I'd ever seen in my lifetime. And when Messi was up and scoring a penalty in the penalty shootout to potentially win Argentina the World Cup, there was no app out there giving a bet in the moment of, hey, is he going to score? Is he not going to score? You know, who would have thought that Mbappe would score 3 goals and they'd still lose the World Cup final? These kind of products you can create in real time haven't really been done in the live sports gaming space and the betting space. Creating a better model for this through data and through better streaming experiences, I think, is really key to creating these new revenue opportunities. So this is just one example of this kind of ecosystem, this clearinghouse, whether it's working with the leagues, with right holders, distributors, but more importantly, where's all the money? The money's on the gaming side, it's on the e-commerce side, it's on the interactive ad side. How can you create this pool of money that everyone who's creating a direct-to-consumer app can access and do a rev share, right, of all these different potential revenue sources? I think this is really disruptive, and I think it's going to be very interesting where this goes in the next few years. So this expands all these different market opportunities. I mentioned La Liga. I believe NHL is also looking at this new space of interactive rights. And I think the sky's the limit as far as the products that we can build. We already have the technology to do this. I think in the broadcast space, we're very lazy, and we haven't been doing a great job of creating the apps that users crave and want now. We've been focusing on these outdated revenue models. And the dirty little secret of live sports and live sports broadcasting is nobody's making money. People buy a ton of rights, and anyone who's actually building an app, they're doing that to grab a subscriber base. Think of DraftKings, think of FanDuel, but they're really making money on iGaming apps and other form of apps, whether it's live casino, horse racing, or other legacy betting apps. Live sports, nobody's really cracked the code on how you can truly monetize that because the rights are so inaccessible and they're so expensive. So whoever can create a better rev model that disrupts the traditional model that, in my opinion, is broken, that's going to be the expanded market opportunity of the future. I think it's quite exciting. And that's it. We actually have a booth out here. You guys are welcome to come by, talk to me at the networking event this evening. But thank you for your time.